From the moment you could understand words, you were infected with a very specific, very toxic piece of modern mythology. You were told to be yourself. You were told to speak your truth. You were aggressively conditioned to believe that authenticity is the ultimate human virtue. You see it on every billboard, in every movie, and in every self-improvement book. Society begs you to tear down your walls, remove your filters, and show the world exactly who you are, what you think, and what you deeply believe. It sounds beautiful, does it not? It sounds liberating and brave. But it is a trap. It is a carefully constructed, invisible snare designed to identify, isolate, and destroy anyone who does not perfectly align with the unwritten rules of the herd. If you actually believe that the world wants your raw, unfiltered truth, you are walking through a jungle covered in blood, wondering why the predators are suddenly looking at you. You must understand a terrifying biological reality. Human beings are fiercely, violently tribal creatures. We are genetically programmed to find safety in uniformity. When the tribe looks alike, thinks alike, and speaks alike, the collective ego feels secure. The illusion of harmony is maintained. But when you stand up and loudly declare your unorthodox beliefs, when you display a personality that clashes with the established norm, or when you openly challenge the sacred traditions of your environment, you are not seen as a brave visionary. You are seen as a virus. You are a disruption to the comfortable, collective hallucination that everyone else has agreed to participate in. And the collective has only one response to a virus: absolute, brutal eradication. They will not debate you on the merits of your logic. They will not respect your staunch individuality. They will simply crucify you. They will label you arrogant, disruptive, radical, or dangerous. Your career, your social standing, and your reputation will be systematically dismantled by the very people who might secretly agree with you, but are far too terrified to ever say it out loud. This brings us to the devastating, blood-soaked reality of Robert Greene's 38th law of power. Think as you like, but behave like others. The absolute pinnacle of dark psychology is not about forcing the world to accept your true self. It is about building an impenetrable steel fortress around your true self and sending a heavily armored, perfectly customized puppet out into the world to interact with the masses. It is the ancient necessary art of wearing a mask. To truly understand the fatal cost of authenticity, you must look at the tragic divergence of two highly intelligent men, Noah and Liam. Both men entered the same ruthlessly traditional, highly competitive financial firm on the exact same day. They possessed the exact same level of towering intellect and analytical brilliance. Within weeks, both men quickly realized that the firm's entire operating model was a fragile house of cards. It was built on outdated, inefficient, and deeply hypocritical practices. The senior partners worshipped archaic traditions, holding endless, pointless meetings and enforcing a strict, suffocating corporate culture that violently stifled any real innovation. Both Noah and Liam clearly saw the rotting foundation of the empire they had just joined, but their reactions to this dark truth dictated the entire trajectory of their lives. Noah was a true, unwavering believer in the modern lie of authenticity. He believed that his brilliant insights were a gift to the firm, and that truth and logic should always, inevitably, trump tradition. He flatly refused to wear the mask. In high-stakes meetings, when the senior partners presented their flawed, dinosaur-era strategies, Noah would openly deconstruct them. He did not yell, but his quiet, piercing logic publicly humiliated the older men. He refused to participate in the firm's shallow social rituals. He skipped the mandatory Friday golf outings, openly stating that he found the small talk mindless, hypocritical, and unbearable. He wore his contempt for the broken system directly on his face. Noah genuinely thought he was being a martyr for progress. He thought his undeniable, mathematically perfect results would form a shield around him. He was completely, fatally blind to the silent execution, orders being drafted in the minds of every executive in the building. The senior partners did not look at Noah and see a misunderstood genius who could save their company. They looked at Noah and saw an arrogant, dangerous radical who actively despised their entire way of life. Noah was making them feel foolish, old, and irrelevant, and in the ruthless, unforgiving calculus of the human ego, making powerful people feel foolish is a capital offense. Noah was proudly standing in the middle of the village square, screaming that the gods were fake, completely ignoring the fact that the villagers were already gathering the stones to crush his skull. Liam, sitting in the exact same meetings, possessed a mind just as sharp as Noah's. He felt the exact same contempt for the archaic rules and the hypocritical leaders. But Liam understood the profound, lethal danger of his own intellect. He took his true thoughts, his radical ideas and his disdain, and he locked them in a steel vault in the deepest, darkest corner of his mind. Liam understood a fundamental law of power that Noah ignored. Before you can change a system, or more importantly, before you can extract massive wealth and absolute power from a system, you must first survive it. And survival in a hostile environment requires perfect camouflage. Liam did not complain about the system. He decided to hack it. He began to craft his mask with the agonizing precision of a master sculptor. Liam approached the firm not as a place of employment, but as a hostile, alien environment that required deep sociological study. He observed the senior partners with the cold, detached fascination of a biologist studying a dangerous pack of wolves. He noted the exact phrases they used to signal authority. He studied their archaic dress codes, the specific tone of their forced laughter, and the unspoken hierarchies that dictated who spoke first in the boardroom. And then he began to meticulously put on the uniform of the tribe. Liam started attending the agonizing Friday golf outings. He bought the exact brand of overpriced, mediocre scotch that the managing director favored. He learned to smile a warm, perfectly engineered smile and nod with deep, fabricated respect every time a senior partner rambled on about the good old days of the firm. To the untrained eye, to a man like Noah, Liam looked like a coward. He looked like a sellout who had abandoned his intellect to become a mindless drone for the corporate machine. But Noah was looking at the surface. He was completely blind to the terrifying, calculated machinery operating behind Liam's warm eyes. Liam's submission was an optical illusion. His politeness was not respect. It was an anesthetic. By perfectly mimicking the values, the aesthetics, and the opinions of the ruling class, Liam became entirely invisible. He triggered absolutely no defense mechanisms in the fragile egos of the older men. They looked at Liam and saw a younger, reassuring reflection of themselves. They felt safe around him. They felt understood. And because they felt safe, they began to slowly, unknowingly hand him the keys to the kingdom. When Liam wanted to introduce a highly advanced, fiercely modern financial model, a model very similar to the one Noah had proposed, he did not announce it as a revolution. He knew the word revolution terrified the men in power. Instead, Liam wrapped his radical, future-altering idea in the thick, comforting blanket of tradition. He pitched it not as a change, but as a continuation of the founders' original vision. He used their outdated corporate buzzwords to describe highly sophisticated algorithms. He attributed the genius of the new system to a passing comment the managing director had made months ago. The board of directors absolutely loved it. They approved Liam's project with massive funding, entirely convinced that they were preserving their beloved traditions, completely unaware that Liam had just quietly rewritten the entire DNA of the firm from the inside out, while Liam was masterfully pulling the strings from behind his carefully constructed mask. Noah finally hit the brick wall of reality. Noah's breaking point occurred during the most critical quarterly review of the year. The firm was bleeding money due to an embarrassingly outdated risk assessment protocol. Noah, driven by his desperate, fatal need to be right, compiled a 50-page dossier, mathematically proving that the senior partners were driving the company off a cliff. He walked into the boardroom, refused to engage in the standard 20 minutes of meaningless small talk, and dropped the dossier on the mahogany table. He spoke his raw, unfiltered truth. He pointed out the specific failures of specific executives. He was factually, undeniably correct on every single point. The numbers did not lie. But human beings do not care about numbers when their pride is bleeding on the floor. The silence in the boardroom was heavy, toxic, and absolute. The managing director did not argue with Noah's mathematics. He simply looked at Noah with eyes as cold as a morgue. Noah had committed the ultimate sin. He had stripped the masks off the powerful men in front of their peers. He had exposed their incompetence under the harsh, blinding light of his own authenticity. The retaliation was swift, silent, and absolute. Noah was not fired that day. Firing him immediately would have validated his dossier. Instead, the firm treated him like a terminal infection. They quarantined him. His access to major accounts was suddenly revoked due to restructuring. His brilliant 50-page dossier was buried in a meaningless subcommittee and never mentioned again. When Noah tried to speak in meetings, he was politely but firmly talked over. His colleagues, the same people who secretly agreed with him by the coffee machine, suddenly avoided making eye contact with him in the hallways. They smelled the blood in the water. They knew the herd had marked Noah for death, and they were terrified of being associated with the diseased animal. Within 6 months, the psychological isolation broke Noah's spirit completely. He resigned, a bitter, exhausted, and deeply cynical man, firmly believing that the world was rigged against genius. He never understood that the world is not rigged against genius. It is rigged against those who lack the discipline to disguise their genius when necessary. Noah's tragic demise is a perfect, agonizing illustration of why the mask is the most vital tool in your psychological arsenal. If you walk into a strictly conservative, traditional environment and flaunt your progressive, radical lifestyle, you are not being a trailblazer. You are painting a massive red target on your own back. If you walk into a highly liberal, artistic circle and loudly proclaim your rigid, orthodox beliefs, you will not inspire a healthy debate. You will be instantly excommunicated. The collective mind does not want to be challenged. It wants to be validated. It wants to look in the mirror and see its own beliefs reflected back at it without distortion. When you refuse to wear the mask, when you insist on constantly broadcasting your true self to a world that did not ask for it, you are committing a massive waste of your own energy. You are choosing to fight 1,000 meaningless battles against 1,000,000 different egos. You are forcing yourself to constantly defend your personality, your beliefs, and your quirks against a society that views anything different as an immediate threat. You become so exhausted from constantly defending your right to exist exactly as you are that you have absolutely no energy left to actually conquer the system, acquire wealth, or achieve true power. You die on a hill of your own pride, surrounded by the very people who crushed you, while they politely go back to playing golf. The man who understands dark psychology looks at the desperate need for authenticity and laughs in the dark. He knows that his true thoughts, his actual beliefs, and his raw personality are far too valuable, far too complex, and frankly, far too dangerous to be handed out for free to every passing stranger or insecure boss. The mask is not a prison. The mask is a tactical shield. It is a highly advanced, customizable armor that you wear to protect your true self from the mindless, devouring jaws of the collective herd. By giving the herd exactly what it wants to see, you pacify them. You put them to sleep. And while they are sleeping, comfortably dreaming in their illusion of conformity, you are free to move through their world completely undetected, extracting everything you need without ever firing a single shot. We must now discuss the actual architecture of the mask. It is not a single rigid face that you glue to your skin and wear in every situation. A static mask is dangerous. It will eventually crack under the pressure of a shifting environment. The true master of dark psychology is not a statue. He is a shapeshifter. He is a social chameleon who possesses an entire wardrobe of customized masks, each meticulously designed to manipulate a specific audience. To survive and conquer, You must learn how to seamlessly transition from one reality to another, changing your colors so perfectly that the herd never realizes you do not belong to them. When you enter a new environment, whether it is a cutthroat corporate office, a prestigious academic circle, or a new social hierarchy, you must crush the urge to announce your presence. Do not speak. Do not try to impress them with your unique personality. You must become a ghost. You step into the room not as a participant, but as a silent, invisible predator mapping a new hunting ground. You must study the herd with absolute chilling detachment. Listen closely to the specific vocabulary they use. Every tribe has its own hidden language, its own corporate jargon, its own socially acceptable slang. Identify their sacred cows. What are the ideas, the historical figures, or the traditions that they worship without question? More importantly, identify their shared enemies. Nothing binds a group of humans together faster than a mutual hatred. Once you have successfully mapped the psychological terrain of the environment, you begin the devastating process of mirroring. Mirroring is arguably the most lethal psychological weapon in human history because it exploits the deepest, most pathetic weakness of the human ego, extreme narcissism. People do not actually want to meet highly unique, complex individuals. Unique individuals are unpredictable, they require mental energy to understand, and they present a potential threat to the established order. What people truly want is to walk into a room and meet a mirror that reflects their own brilliance, their own beliefs, and their own morality right back at them. When you start using their specific vocabulary, when you nod in solemn agreement with their political views, and when you express righteous anger at the exact same things they hate, you completely bypass their critical thinking. You bypass the security system of their brain. You hack directly into their primitive tribal hard drive. They look at you, and their subconscious mind immediately whispers, "He is one of us. He is safe. He is good." You earn their absolute trust, not by proving your competence, but simply by wearing their uniform. You manufacture a profound artificial sense of kinship. However, the execution of the chameleon strategy requires extreme finesse. If you agree with every single word they say, you will look like a weak, desperate sycophant. The herd does not respect a mindless follower. They merely tolerate one. To make your mask truly impenetrable, you must master the art of the calculated concession. You must passionately and vocally agree with the tribe's most sacred, fundamental dogmas. But on completely trivial, meaningless issues, you offer a mild, polite disagreement. You respectfully debate the color of the new office furniture, or you offer a slightly different opinion on a popular movie. This brilliant, manipulative tactic gives the herd the illusion that you are an independent, free thinker. It makes your mask look three-dimensional and incredibly authentic. They believe you are a man of strong convictions who just miraculously happens to share their exact core worldview. It is a psychological masterpiece. But as you stand there smiling warmly, speaking their language, and flawlessly executing their social rituals, what is happening inside your own mind? This is the most crucial, dangerous element of the 38th law of power. You must build a massive, impenetrable steel wall between your outer performance and your inner citadel. Your true thoughts, your absolute disdain for their mediocrity, your radical ideas, and your quiet superiority, these must be kept pristine and locked, away in the darkest room of your mind. You must never, under any circumstances, allow the mask to fuse with your actual identity. You are acting in a high-stakes play. The brilliant actor playing the village idiot on stage does not actually believe he is an idiot. He plays the part perfectly, he entertains the crowd, and he knows that he is the one who walks away with the money when the curtain falls. The greatest threat to your empire is not the herd discovering you. It is your own emotional exhaustion. Wearing a mask demands immense, grueling psychological stamina. There will be days when the sheer, suffocating stupidity of the people around you will make you want to scream. Your ego will violently demand to be let out of its cage. You will feel a burning, overwhelming urge to slam your fist on the desk, tear off the mask, and tell them all exactly how blind, weak and pathetic they really are. In that exact agonizing moment, you must bite your tongue until it tastes like iron. You must swallow your pride like broken glass, because a single moment of lost control, a single emotional slip of the mask, will instantly destroy years of meticulous infiltration. If the herd catches even a 1-second glimpse of the cold, calculating predator hiding beneath the warm, agreeable surface, the illusion is shattered permanently. They will never ever trust you again. The realization that they have been manipulated will turn their passive acceptance into violent, hysterical vengeance. They will burn you at the stake not for what you believe, but for the unforgivable crime of making them feel like fools. The mask is your passport behind enemy lines. It allows you to move freely through their heavily guarded fortresses. It grants you unrestricted access to their resources, their secrets, their capital, and their networks. You become a spy in the house of the ordinary. And as you quietly gather your power, completely hidden in plain sight, you are preparing for the ultimate endgame. Because the mask is not a permanent sentence. It is a temporary vehicle, and it is driving you straight to the throne. We now arrive at the final, cold realization of the 38th law of power. You must understand that the mask is not a burden you carry. It is the price of admission to the world of the elite. While Noah is sitting in a dimly lit apartment, clutching his integrity and his truth, while the world moves on without him, Liam is standing in the penthouse of the skyscraper. Liam is looking down at the city he now helps control, and he is doing it precisely because he had the iron discipline to be someone else for long enough to get what he wanted. Liam's final ascent was not a matter of luck. As the old guard at the firm began to retire, they looked for a successor. They didn't want a disruptor. They didn't want someone who would make them feel like their life's work was a mistake. They wanted Liam. Why? Because in their eyes, Liam was the perfect embodiment of their values. He was one of them. On the day Liam was named managing partner, he stood at the podium and gave a speech that was a masterpiece of manufactured tradition. He praised the wisdom of the founders. He spoke about preserving the legacy. The audience of powerful men and women beamed with pride. They felt validated. They felt secure. But as Liam stepped down from that podium, as he walked into his new private office and closed the heavy oak door, something changed. For the first time in a decade, the muscles in his face relaxed. The warm, agreeable smile vanished, replaced by a gaze that was sharp, piercing, and terrifyingly cold. Behind that closed door, Liam didn't have to be the student anymore. He didn't have to be the traditionalist. He began to implement the radical, high-tech changes he had envisioned years ago. He fired the incompetent sycophants who had relied on their seniority rather than their skill. He turned the firm into a global powerhouse, far more efficient and far more ruthless than the founders could have ever imagined. He was finally free to act as he liked because he had spent years behaving like others. He had earned his freedom through the strategic sacrifice of his public identity. This is the ultimate paradox of power. If you want the freedom to truly be yourself, you must first master the art of being whoever the world needs you to be. Authenticity is not a right you are born with. It is a luxury you buy with the power you accumulate through deception. The world is a masquerade ball. Everyone is wearing a mask, whether they realize it or not. The authentic people are simply wearing the most common, transparent masks of all, the masks of the victim, the martyr, or the fool. They are the easiest to read, the easiest to manipulate, and the easiest to discard. They think they are being brave by showing their true face, but they are actually just showing their throat to the predators. You must reject the sentimental nonsense of the herd. Stop believing that the people around you want the real you. They don't. They want a version of you that makes them feel better about themselves. They want a version of you that fits into their narrow, comfortable narrative. Give it to them. Give them the performance of a lifetime. Let them believe they know you. Let them believe they have categorized you. The more predictable you seem to them, the more invisible your true movements become. But as you navigate this world, As you build your wardrobe of masks, you must be wary of the most dangerous trap of all, the abyss of the mask itself. Do not become a hollow man. Do not let the performance consume the performer. Every night, when you are alone, you must take off the armor. You must look in the mirror and confront the raw, unfiltered, and potentially dark reality of who you actually are. If you forget your true thoughts, if you begin to actually believe the lies you tell the herd, you have not mastered the 38th law. You have been mastered by it. You have become the very drone you set out to manipulate. The mask is your weapon, but your mind is the hand that wields it. Keep your mind sharp. Keep your disdain private. Keep your goals secret. In a world of loud, desperate people screaming for attention and validation, there is nothing more powerful than a man who can smile at his enemies, agree with his oppressors, and quietly prepare for the day he no longer has to do either. Noah chose his truth and lost his power. Liam chose his mask and won the world. Society will always tell you to be Noah. It will tell you to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to be yourself. It tells you this because Noahs are easy to manage. Noahs are predictable. Noahs are harmless. The world is terrified of Liams. It is terrified of people who can blend in, move through the shadows, and strike when no one is looking. Now look at the people you interact with every day. Your boss, your co-workers, your friends. Do you really think they know you? Or are you, like Noah, handing them the weapons they will eventually use to destroy you? Are you ready to stop being the target and start being the predator? Are you ready to embrace the dark necessity of the mask? Ask yourself this: if everyone in your life knew exactly